Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of 2017. Can you believe that we made it this far? I think it's wild what we left off with. Not really left off, but we're continuing. I mean, so much for a break, right? Holidays or anything like that, they just kind of threw us right back in the fire. But that's kind of to be expected whenever you start looking at all the other things that we have going on. But before I start getting into everything else that I'm going to start covering, obviously I've titled this one Revealing Humanity, which is kind of a continuation from the transhuman reality, but in a different path. And it's going to hopefully try to set the tone for what will be ranging in over this season, over this year, hopefully. Like I said, it's kind of a continuation as transhuman reality, but in a sort of different light. But like I said first, with the actual updates, things that you guys should pay attention to, check it out. We have got all kinds of stuff going on, as always. That we wouldn't be us if we didn't do that. But brand new design for the website, so please check that out. I feel like it looks super powerful, super cool. But yeah, to get things started with the updates, obviously I'm ranting. Check out Paradox Radio. Every Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we're going to be playing music. Kind of like that. And hopefully we can reach out to a whole new audience of people. And the idea behind that is simply being able to let people like yourself who are listening, artists, other people who are putting out information, to take 2 seconds or 2 minutes literally to put a song on the radio, on Paradox Radio, get the message out and get the idea out, so they can have their own platform. And it has to work in tandem with Factions of Freedom. So please definitely check that out. That is a new project that we are working on, as far as what we got going on over here on this side. Also, be sure to check out the Battalion's Bazaar, Fighting Conformity with Creativity. And this is where basically you guys can commission me, or you guys can purchase any of the services or products that Factions of Freedom has going on. I mean, you can check out previous seasons, like right there. You can check out season 1, all the other stuff, season 3, or the Smorgasbord edition, which is all of them, compacted. This, that, and the third, but you can check that out. You can also buy the music, which is over 20 songs, guys. I mean, what you're listening to right now in the background, this is produced by me. So you can check that out. There's all kinds of great stuff there. Graphic design work, as you can tell. I like to do graphic design, video, artwork, this, that, and the third. There is a lot of different things that you guys have the choice of choosing, of looking at, you see. And it's all right here in the website. And last, let's go over Operation Dunamis. Operation Dunamis is basically the idea of getting us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, getting us to show up on legitimate searches on Google, with the big name alternative places, because we are dealing with censorship at an increasingly alarming rate. So my thought to that is, like I said before, with the Battalion's Bazaar, fight conformity with creativity. They're trying to do their thing, so why don't we do ours? That's the whole idea of this whole podcast, right? And that's the whole idea with everything that I'm doing here. But that's all I got right now for you guys, and I'll give updates, as things develop. But please check out the website, check out what we have going on, and understand that, hey man, it's 2017. We have got to do things differently these days. And I don't want to start looking for sponsors. I don't want to look for all kinds of things like that. I want to be able to do this organically and naturally. And as I've said before, throughout countless posts, videos, episodes, this, that, and the third, this is a show built for you guys, built for you guys, built by you guys. That's where we're at these days. Sorry, I'm not over here funded by the government, funded by CNN, funded by George Soros, funded by all these other people. That's not what we're doing over here. We're literally doing our own independent thing. That's what it is. This is independent media at its finest. Like I said before, from the from the music to the videos to the posts that you guys see, it's all me. I mean, aside occasionally from, what the people are writing, but you get the picture that I'm trying to point to you guys. So those are some of the updates that I have for you guys. That's what I wanted to lead in with, and that's what I wanted to get you guys to start thinking about with season 4. As I said before, leading up to it, a whole lot of different things planned, a whole lot of different things that we had in mind as far as building up not only the Factions of Freedom name, but who we're affiliated with and the kinds of things that we're doing here. You see. So, that's what I have for you guys as far as announcements. That's it. You don't have to hear any more of the rhetoric, and now we can actually get to the information. We can start getting into what's going on. What is this about? Why are you ranting to me? Why did I give you this time? Well, thank you, firstly, for giving me your time. I really do appreciate it. As I said before at the start of the show, we were able to do all these different things because of what you guys have been able to do. So thank you for giving me your time. And let's get into it. So this episode is called Revealing Humanity, right? And as I said before, this is kind of a continuation on the transhuman reality, but in an aspect, and this is kind of what I wanted to leave off with in 2016, but seeing as how it's 2017, this is what I want to start the year with, right there, boom. In religion, we call it spirits. In science, we call it energy. In the streets, we call it vibes. All I'm saying is trust it. That's it. The devil is in the details. We try to really flesh out way too much. We try to put God into a box, and I'll get in that, in that paradoxical concept, hopefully later on in the episode, and other things as well, like the Mandela effect, artificial sixth senses, collapsing timelines, and things like this. But all of these things play a part in what it is to actually be human, to reveal that humanity that we are all from. You see, I think a lot of people get confused and upset, and I don't really know how you would put it, but we become very worldly whenever we shut ourselves off to the spiritual world. I know this might sound like mumbo jumbo to some people, and that's fine. I'm not here to flesh out those kind of details. I'm here to accent and explain the beauty that is you. The beauty that we are, the beauty that we come from, like I said before, the essence that we have within us all. And the reason why this episode kind of came into play is because towards the end of 2016, I started posting some pretty cool stuff. But I feel like it's pretty cool stuff. The winter solstice, the Mayan calendar, the shift in consciousness, the paradigm shift. What else? The fact that we could be living in a holographic universe, the idea that, consciousness exists outside of the brain. All of these things. You got to look at them. This isn't New Age, and shutting yourself off to it and saying, "Oh my gosh, this is scary. Oh my gosh, this is devilry. This is black magic." No, my gosh, no, please stop. Because when you do that, you really do limit yourself as far as what you can comprehend. You don't build faith up. You don't mature spiritually. You don't mature mentally. You don't do any of those types of things. You see, and that's how we need to start looking at these types of things. Regardless, this information is here. And before people came along and put their own labels on it, name it and claim it, before people came in and decided to define it their own way, these things still went on. Okay, so there's a reason why we need to learn from our past, and I'll get into that as well. But like I said before, this whole episode kind of stemmed from the response I was getting from people saying I was New Age, or I was a shill, or ignorance, really. People who are trying to explain spirituality in a religious context. Whenever I've talked about a number of times before how I feel like religion is government for the soul. I'm highly spiritual, and that's what we talk about here on the show. And what am I talking about? Whenever I say there's a difference between people who are spiritual and people who are sacrificing babies. Okay, there's a difference between people who go to church, and a difference between people who pray, and a difference between people who meditate. And these are all different types of things that happen before we came in and decided to quantify it in our most modern relative way. All right, so what am I really trying to say is I'm asking you, what is humanity? We have more abilities than we believe Yet people don't want to believe in themselves or in the indomitable human spirit which resides in us all. We've traded our intuition for the internet without realizing it's an expression of who we are and what we can be. And what I'm really trying to explain to you guys is they're trying to digitize destiny. Okay, our love has become shallow. We live lives that have become meaningless, all of which result in a general depreciation of value and worth. And why are we being killed? It's because some folks want it. What do you believe in? You see what I'm saying? Why do I have to talk about the idea of revealing the humanity that we have? It's because we're losing it. It's because we don't care for humanity. We don't care for that divine spark that is within us all. Because we were all created equal. No. I mean, I'm sure I'll find somebody that'll say, no, this man's a slave. This guy's born to be a weakling, to be a prey. Some people are born to be predators. I'm sure we'll hear that as well. But that's not what I'm talking about here. That's really not what I'm trying to get at here. You see, the theme of this year, or at least last year, has been that of altering, understanding, or changing what it means to be human. Science and technology have played an abundant role in the pursuit of this never-ending goal. However, this year alone, I believe that the monumental strides we've achieved, that we've documented on this show, not only spiritually, but technologically as well, and both of those things are highly important for what we're going to be going over in this episode. You know, that's why I have to explain the spiritual aspect, that divine spark, that godliness that we do have within us all, and how we're literally trying to digitize it. How do you cannot quantify the soul. You see, and I say this as I've been pulling myself away from the ever increasing lull of my smartphone. My smartphone, my laptop, my computer, my iPad, my technologies and social media. I'm realizing how much of myself and others it's consumed. This is nothing new, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we all understand what this means. We are all immersed in this siren song, but that doesn't mean that we can't, that doesn't mean that we can't pluck a few strings. Doesn't mean that we can't, I'm not saying cause a little ruckus, but it doesn't mean that we ultimately can't unplug ourselves from this matrix. Unplug ourselves from this trap, you see. Indeed, one thing that we've not talked about enough on this show, and that's where I'm trying to come from, your future self is watching you right now through your memories, is solutions. That's what we need to talk about, the angle at which we're going about this. In my time away from doing all this, spending time with my family, disconnecting from all of this, I really hope I haven't been as bigoted and angry and judgmental as I think I have been in reflecting. But it's because, and there's no excuse for this, the 2016 stress, the anger, the vibes, everything that we were all feeling. I hope I wasn't as angry and bitter as I feel like I was. You see, and I think it's because of what we were all immersed in, what we were all engaged in. But like I said, we need to start talking about solutions here. The angle at which we're coming from and how we want to deal with this. I mean, the reason of the whole exposing lies part of, the tagline, catchphrase, the exposing lies part of sharing truth, that little thing right there, that means exposing this stuff so we can do something about it. You see, the reason why you expose it is because it's hidden. These people are trying to do shady things in the dark. We need to be the ones to expose their lies so that they cannot do these things. This is what I'm talking about. We need to talk about solutions. And where do they come from? From within. You create the solutions. You make the answers. You speak the truth. And you create the reality in which you interact. Like, how do you think you're hearing about this podcast? I would actually be pretty curious to see how you guys found yourself here. Really, how did you hear about the show? Did you also hear that we make music, as I mentioned at the start of the show? Do you make music? Contact me. That's the whole reason Paradox Radio is up there. I believe synchronicity is the universe trying to tell you something that neither I nor anyone else can convey to you. But I will be the first to tell you that sometimes on here in the show, we delve into some pretty deep stuff, which causes you to look inward at yourself as well. You see, to have that self-ownership and to have that judgment, to have that realization of what is happening, to have that orientation. You see, I'm sure, whenever we do look into all this stuff, we feel a little strange, as if we're not really who we are, as if we're ghosts inhabiting a shell, ghosts in a machine. Right there. My body is earthbound as my mind aligns itself with the heavens. Yet still, what is my soul exists within all of you. While we have the evidence of psychic abilities being explored by scientists in a new video series. This is last year. Like I said, this is a continuation of the transhuman reality, but in a more human aspect, in a more human-oriented way, to where we can understand how awesome we are, not only as an individual, but as a whole. Right there, the brain does not create consciousness. Although the brain does have an auric field, an energy field, all organs do. It does not create consciousness. Okay, and that's where we should kind of get a grip on things, because if you ask me, and I'm starting to rant a little bit, God is an energy. God is the energy field that is everything. God is. Okay? We are the biological computers in which the universe sends its signals and we act them out. That's why I'm saying, when they talk about creating artificial sixth sense using technology, ELF towers and waves and things like this, that's a whole thing, bro. We need to understand what's actually going on. You see, but to get back to point, being these ghosts in the machines that we are, being these spirit entities, these interdimensional beings inhabiting a meat machine made from stardust and earth minerals, would you appreciate yourself then? We're a species that doesn't care about our history and ultimately ourselves as a whole, and consequently, this affects us and what we allow ourselves to do, how far we're able to project ourselves, or even if we truly want to understand how we came to this point. I mean, whenever you guys tell me that cellular reprogramming is not possible or people don't have psychic abilities, well, that says that you wouldn't want those abilities, truly. You wouldn't want to seek out those things. You wouldn't want to dedicate yourself to try to master certain crafts, to have full dominance not only of your physical body but of your mind. When you unify your mind and your body and your spirit, you don't want that. That's what you tell me when you say, "Oh, this can't exist. There's no way this is real. These are demons." It's like, well, have fun staying tied down in there, because regardless of how much evidence you hear from generations of people saying, "Hey, did you know you're capable of this?" You still don't believe it. You still don't believe it. What am I rambling about? I'm rambling about you. I'm rambling about us. I'm rambling about who we've been and what we're capable of doing. And why, if we continue this behavior of self-destruction, of self-loathing, of hatred, I was just, where we put things down, where we immediately, dismiss things, where you don't have faith, where you don't, go outside of your parameters of thinking. Right there, research isn't wisdom. You can search for days, but what will you find that you didn't know already? Understand what is happening. If we continue this behavior, our future will be as our present and forgotten along the wayside. We have generations of knowledge available within us. Like I said, understand what is happening. That awesomely, that can be brought about for the world to appreciate, because of the aforementioned technology and sciences. But because we no longer care for our history or ourselves, we're seeing that general degradation of society, and that knowledge base as a whole, it's we're seeing the destruction of that itself. You're more than capable to do everything that I'm doing over here, guys. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just talking about, like I said, you. I'm rambling about us. I'm rambling about that spirit that's within all of us, that's within you. And you can't smother it. Don't smother it. Foster it. If no one told you you're awesome, I'm telling you you're awesome. I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. That's why I say thank you guys for allowing me to do this, to tell you thank you, to give me this platform, to listen to me ramble about these things whenever I'm not covering how, DNA editing breakthroughs could delay aging and cure diseases, or how solar is becoming the cheapest form of electricity production globally. Things like that. Thank you for giving me the chance to tell you that we are capable of so much more than you think. Ask your grandparents. Ask your parents about what their grandparents did. Look at what you've been able to accomplish that your parents weren't able to within the time that you've been here. We don't respect lifetimes. We don't respect identities. We don't respect legacy. We don't respect history or what we've done. I mean, what are the pyramids? I mean, I'm trying to get on like multiple people that that thoroughly study it so we can talk about these types of things, because it's vastly important. More parts of our humanity, more parts of our ancient archaeology, our hidden history. See, we're at a time when if you know what's going on, and as I said before, we can talk tit for tat, devil in the details, fleshing out all that good stuff. But to put things simply, there are some things going on, and it's apparent to some. The times that we're in, these things are happening. Like, before I, continue on about what's going on, let's just look at a few things. Police seek Amazon Echo data in murder case. Berlin is in lockstep with the U.S. planning a center of defense against disinformation. Okay, the Rothschilds are stealing the world country by country. Yes, this is true. You can look up Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and Agenda 2050. Marijuana compound removes toxic Alzheimer's protein from the brain. And I talked about this in a recent post earlier today. This was posted back on December 27th, a post earlier today, about how there's some strange sickness tied to some of the strains of marijuana that's being released right now. Right there, artificial intelligence replacing management at the world's largest hedge fund. And the DAPL protests are still going strong because this pipeline is still being illegally built. Ironically enough, Donald Trump dumped his stocks in the Energy Transfer Partners, the company that owns the Dakota Access Pipeline. You see, so the point I'm trying to make is look what's going on. You can flesh this stuff out. You can try to talk about all this other stuff. We're talk about how we're actively engaged in all these distractions. But look at the times we're in. The reality of marriage with sex box. While we're just trying to discover the paradox of time travel via virtual reality. You see, for the people that do know, for the people that do understand, that see, that really do see what's going on, it has become apparent. You see, it is a knowing of some sorts. It is an understanding of what is to come and what is to be. What is happening to everyone. Right there. And that's why I wanted to lead in with the winter solstice and the Mayan calendar and the shift in consciousness. Because this is and I've talked about this before on the show, 2012 was the ending of an age. These things are cyclical, seasonal, shifts, not destructions, not the end of days. These things will continue to happen. You see. And regardless of how people feel, they might say these are demons and these are strange people, these are freaks, these are all these, this, that, and the third. Well, very much so, but these are all representations of things that are happening uh, in a way larger aspect than we can physically comprehend, or in an aspect that I can comprehend or that I mean to comprehend right now. And what's really going on that we're seeing happen is just that, is the turning of the wheel, the changing of the age. I always talk about the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, or the age of Aquarius shifting into, or shifting from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, and the types of things that encompasses. And this is why we're seeing all kinds of different things like, 31 different genders being put out there. The third gender movement, people being non-binary, and I'll get into that later. It's fantastic, it's strange, but this is what's happening. Okay, let me get into this article because I've kind of definitely been sidetracked on on some other things. There has been a real buildup today in the last few months, really, so much so has been going on both numerologically, and astrologically. Gosh, I really messed up both of those words. I've missed a chunk of it, and I have missed a chunk of it on the conscious level. However, I have certainly been feeling it, and chances are, if you're reading this, you have too. Many of the conversations I've had lately have been people about feeling negatively affected by the energy, but many also seem to have been able to ride this wave and navigate through the often turbulent labyrinth that is the energetic field. Okay, and I'm going to pause right there before I actually pick back up, and that's what I wanted to mention beforehand. Look at the time frame that this article came out. Day after Christmas. Yeah, I hung out with you guys the day after Christmas. And it's the truth is because, and you probably discussed this with your family as well. It doesn't feel like Christmas. It doesn't feel like the holidays. I think everybody just wanted 2016 to be over because of the amount of stress that it caused. But as this author wrote, and I do agree, some people were able to ride this wave of energy. And I talked about it as well, how the Satanists at that time were using it to channel all the negative energy and build up all kinds of other things that they had going on. I'm not going down that path this time. What I'm saying is, yes, these things are occurring. There is a massive shift in consciousness. People are feeling these types of things, but you have got to do something with the energy. You have got to figure out a way to redirect it. Okay, the key to navigation is submission. Once we submit to our intuition and internal guidance, we have the power to live out our true purpose and live in flow. I'm going to highlight why the last few months have been so turbulent, possibly the most turbulent of our generation, in a future article. But that could be a lengthy one, and I want to start with today. Today is the winter solstice. It was the winter solstice, according to my friend Jennifer Soldini from Evolve and Ascend. The winter solstice is the shortest day of the year, but the deeper significance relates to an integral aspect of our soul's journey here on Earth. Okay, and what am I trying to say is, like I said before, with the 31 different genders, people changing themselves, the things that are going on with genders, appearance, identity, these types of things. These are all aspects, regardless of however you might feel. This is your ego. This is the world trying to tell you how to feel, but you can still feel it. You can still feel the energy of what's going on in a larger aspect affecting people. You see, and the whole idea behind that, and the reason why I wanted to get into that article briefly, is to talk about, yes, there is a cosmic godly international force in which we are not international, interdimensional force in which we all pull from, and I'll get into that later. Okay, what am I talking about? I'm talking about star children, moon children. Moon children are kind of ritual children, and I talked about that as well. But there are some people here that have been ritually birthed that do not want to serve the dark side's agenda, yet still have some powers reminiscent of that have the supersensory capabilities and extra normal powers. Walk-ins, parasites, hosts, possessions, and all these types of things that we're dealing with, you know, parasites, people that get, basically taken over. All of these things are happening more so at an alarming rate than most think. And the reason why I say that is because when we look at things like CERN or just CERN, Project Awake, Project Atlas, the LHC, the IHC, and other places like that, and even people who are conducting rituals on the side, we're creating all kinds of different portals. We're punching holes in our universe, in our galaxy, in our time spatial orientation. And I've actually talked to Josh Peck, who is the host of the Sharpening Report, and I definitely suggest you guys check out his work. Check out what he and Tom Horn and other people, Derek Gilbert, are doing over at Skywatch TV. All of what they're doing is fantastic. But I talked to Josh Peck about this as well. The idea that we are living in a very multidimensional reality, and how he, in one of his recent videos, explained how the Earth is held up by certain pillars. And this is kind of going along the ideas of the flat Earth theory, but that the Earth is held up by certain pillars. And imagine, basically, and this is why we're considered a plane, not a planet, a plane. Imagine a piece of grid paper, or graph paper, with the boxes in between. We are one little square right there. But the circle in which we are encased in, the flat Earth that people would see, the circle inside of the square, that's where we are. We are this, not necessarily a sphere, but like I said, the circle inside the triangle. But there are 4 pillars that uphold the Earth, and in these 4 pillars, this is what happens whenever they connect from the heavens down to the Earth. It was a whole great conversation. If anything, I might write an article on it, but the idea is that we are, yes, living in a very multidimensional reality, and that we as creatures in this multidimensional reality can interact and cannot interact in some degree. But yes, something is happening to us in this realm and to the realm, and I'm here to try to describe and talk about it, or at least what I've been able to notice, what I've encountered, and what I know to be the truth according to my experiences and my own studies, hence the show, the page, and the videos, you see. And I talked about this before. To me, God is the energy field that is everything. There is no way I can quantify God, because there's no way I can quantify my soul. You see, that's how it works for me. On another note, we've talked about Anthony Patch, plasma wake field generators, Project Atlas, and CERN, and things of this nature for this kind of reason. Them creating an artificial energy field counterfeiting the one that we already inhibit and pull essence from. And I'll talk about this as well. Hopefully, I'll talk about this. Yeah, we've got the time. I'll talk about this as well. Them creating a artificial energy field, and I talked about this with corrupt government as well. The former aerospace engineer of NASA for 25 years, and how that the Navy as well as the Air Force are shooting plasma bombs into our atmosphere and our ionosphere, and these are changing things like our time-spatial orientation. You see, but what this basically does is they're trying to counterfeit. Come on, of course, someone's always trying to call me whenever I'm doing something of importance. But to get back to point, they are trying to counterfeit the already natural energy field in which we are in, that we pull our essence from. This could be considered mana, spirit, our collective unconsciousness, the Akashic records, the soul net, whatever you would want to describe it as, the other world, ethereal, energetic, interdimensional force in which we all come from. Okay, and this is what I mean by the internet, because it basically symbolizes, in one aspect, the collective willpower of a planet that is freely accessible to anyone if they choose to do so. And this is why, hopefully I can get to, no, you're not going to do it for me? Maybe? I'm looking for the article where we can talk about how consciousness exists outside of the brain. We're not, I don't want to say meat puppets, but we're so much more than we give ourselves credit for. And when we don't begin to appreciate ourselves in that manner, we don't necessarily see all the things that we can do. You see, and that's why, like I said before at the start of the show, I wanted to explain that. And, nope, it's not going to show it for me. Definitely not going to show it for me. Okay, well, let me see what I can find. Good thing we are always doing things on this end of the computer. But the point I'm trying to make with that, the idea that we are living not holograms or not, puppets, not things of this nature, but that we are basically expressions of a larger existence. I don't want to say that we're I don't want to say that, and this is where it gets real tricky trying to talk about this type of stuff, because I'm trying to explain something that is basically unexplainable or inexplainable, totally immaterial, and I cannot. Right there. The brain does not create consciousness. Oh, apparently I was looking the wrong way, guys. Forgive me. The first day back in the saddle. First time back in the saddle. Okay. In a recent interview on Waking Times aired on the People's Voice Network, Dr. Eben Alexander, Harvard neurosurgeon. Harvard neurosurgeon. Bam, right there. Right there. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Harvard neurosurgeon presents compelling scientific research in the field of consciousness that examines the unfolding reality that the brain does not create consciousness. Misleading concepts that focus on the reductive materialism have kept us in the dark about the true nature of the human soul and its integral part in our evolution as spiritual beings. I would most definitely have to agree. Whenever you think that your life is only bills and trying to make sure that you don't go to a hell, something that was created before you, and it's fear-based, and you're just told, do this or you're gonna die. This can't be it. You can't tell me I was born into a world where we have people like climate activists who are pro depopulation. You can't tell me I was born into a world where I did not have a choice on trying to fix this. You see. So that's not how this works. Let me get back into this article. The old paradigm of birth to death represents an outdated concept that is woefully inadequate in defining the unfolding of reality of expanded awareness. He stated in the interview with Waking Times, materialist science is at the end of its day, as most scientists are changing their views. The old concepts are soon to be relegated to the same dustbin as the earth is flat, as we develop as a more mature understanding and transcend old beliefs. I think that's funny because I literally just talked about the correlation between the concept that the world could be flat. All these people are saying that we're transcending old beliefs. Good thing, science is a tricky thing. Supported by worldwide research that is now delving into the concepts of string theory that involves a complete reworking of our outdated and limited views of space-time, means that we are now entering a phase where science will greatly expand its boundaries. The foundation of the research begins with its clear understanding of the soul, or conscious spirit, that exists outside of the body and is eternal. Consciousness is at the core to unfolding all of reality. States Alexander. The brain operates as the body based on input from the personality, but the higher intelligence or subconscious is the mechanism that controls the body, and that is the soul that we have yet to acknowledge or even begin to understand. That is the free will component that exists long after the body stops. Near-death paranormal mysticism, past life memories, and Akashic records are now a common thread that drives home the conclusion that there exists a soul within the human body that transcends the human experience. I definitely agree. You guys can check this article out. It's from worldtruthtv.com. Eddie Levine, the brain does not create consciousness, and I definitely agree. As he said before, with the Akashic records. The idea that we come from something else. This is not it. We're creating a reality. This is not it. Okay. I mentioned this earlier, that we are ghosts in the machine, spirits inhabiting stardust covered in meat. Aside from the colloquial terms, is that so far from the truth? You see, let me put it to you this way. Let me see if I can put it to you this way. Your parents, hopefully, they thought about having you before having you, right? Which turn made them, act on the thought. Who or what was that guiding force behind those decisions? Was it you? Or was it the force in which you represent? Now, is that God or you God? Was that their consciousness sowing you into existence? Had you existed prior to their agreement to spiritually conceive? And if so, why did you choose to incarnate right now? Let me see. Those are some questions I don't have the answers for. But I will tell you, everyone has a purpose if they choose. Because that's what we're all here for. That is what we are. A collection of choices, both good and bad. You see, and with that being said, with that being the case, that there is this already natural latent energy field in which we come from that I call God, the source, and the Most High. That is the universe to me in some ways. That is what I cannot explain. But hear me out. Then this is where I have to transfer over to why we have got to understand the enemy. We've got to understand what we're up against. When you got AT&T teaming up with the NSA, and other cell phone companies teaming up with other government agencies and various other institutions, putting up their own cell phone towers, emitting their own signals to a population, there are bound to be consequences, both on a macro and a micro level. Okay, Wi-Fi routers are a perfect example of long-term exposure, what that can do to someone. You see? And I put this up sometime in December. But it was a quick post on, Wi-Fi and the effects on the brain. It goes like this. Wi-Fi is convenient, but many have raised doubts concerning the safety of unforeseen forces that permeate everything around us. Since the introduction of Wi-Fi in 1997, researchers have performed dozens of studies to explore the subject. The results are clear and shocking. Wi-Fi can negatively affect overall health and brain health, especially in children. This is why they tell you to keep, the iPads and everything else away from the kids, because the LED lights, you're burning their corneas. Oh my gosh. And then, you can buy in the pocket radiation sticks, and then the pulling in of signals. Like, my God, Steve Jobs himself, he doesn't even give his own kids his products. You see, so let me get back into this article, but perhaps the most shocking is that the information is not new or even that controversial. In fact, in 2008, the well-renowned publication Scientific American ran a piece called Mind Control by Cell Phone, which explained the danger Wi-Fi has on the human brain. So this is where I'm going to start talking about how they're messing with what I would consider our unispiritual orientation. Like I said before, Wi-Fi, electromagnetic, low-frequency towers, ELF towers, Gwen towers, chemtrails, fracking, the Air Force and the Navy plasma bombs. All of these, like I said before, mess with our unispiritual orientation, how we interact with God, the universe, and ourselves. You see, all of these things create a disharmony within ourselves, and it corrupts our biochemistry and ultimately causes cracks within ourselves. So before I start going on and on and on and on about being biological computers, because we are, as I said before, we when we pray, when we meditate, when we do anything that disassociates us from this nonsense, we get back to source. When you go for a hike or a walk, and you appreciate the time of being one with nature. Sorry to sound like a hippie, but whenever you do these things, you're getting back to where you come from. You're not stopping at a McDonald's, to get some quick Wi-Fi, or a Starbucks to get a quick latte or whatever you do. You're charging your soul battery. You're charging your soul. That's why it's called nature therapy. That's why people do these things. But what am I trying to talk about? Because we are so awesome. I didn't put this up because this is something that I wanted to share with you guys, the people that were actually listening to the podcast. And maybe I should just start doing that more, save some certain articles for the podcast versus certain articles for the page. You guys just heard some live time planning. But this article, it came out today. It's from before'snews.com, and the title goes like this: Horrendous. The New World Order is using psychoanalysis and artificial intelligence plus God playing with artificial intelligence, plus God playing with artificial sixth sense and humans. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I kind of butchered that. But let me get into this article. The beast system is ramping it up, folks, and we see some scary bleeping stuff. I had to bleep the word out. There's videos here that you guys can actually check out, and seeing as how I'm still fighting a copyright infringement at the start of the year, I don't want to chance it. But let me read this real quick. Project Sixth Sense, the radical induction of New Age technology set to mix with biology. And this obviously gets into the aspect of transhumanism, something that we are very familiar with over here on the show. But like I said before, what we're talking about is the idea that they're trying to create a sixth sense, create their own source, so to speak. Messing with us being the biological computers, and I'll get into that shortly. Humanity is rapidly changing, and with that change comes the mixing of biology and technology. Scientists and researchers seek to give mankind a new age, quote, sixth sense, but the cabal aims to use technology to close prison doors. The day that technology became witchcraft is the day that humans can feel sound, hear taste, and sense movement from miles away. Let me say that one more time. The day that technology became witchcraft is the day that humans, that's us, can feel sound, hear taste, and sense movement from miles away. Science and technology can grant the deaf ears and the blind eyes by the way of plugging in technology into sensory receptors within the brain, which allows the brain to process the results. Cochlear implants and retinal implants have proven that technology and biology can work together to replace certain senses that an individual may be lacking. However, what has been unknown until recently was the reality that the brain can also process many other senses outside the traditional five: sight, touch, taste, smell, and sound. Neuroscientist David Eagleman plans on extending the brain's capability to receive signals, which in turn would allow humans to interact with different wavelengths of life, such as vision and infrared, and connecting the brain to the internet. Eagleman is joined by his student in the conquest to create the hive mind and turn humans into machines. And this is one of the videos that you guys can come check out. And it kind of goes on in the actual article, talking about the types of things that they'll be used. Right here, psychoanalysis is being conducted using artificial intelligence to comb social media sites like Facebook, learning and storing data for later use in a technocracy of connectedness, the hive mind. And what we're seeing of, if you want a perfect example of this, people paying attention to the hive mind, to the artificial intelligence, is these challenges. It's like every other week there's like a new dance or a new challenge. And all they really have to do is just spike it up to 4 or 5 people that, get a ridiculous amount of likes on something, and they'll share it, and then boom, it becomes popular. You see, and I don't think that's one aspect that people are noticing as well, is we're being programmed and given orders in this hive mind mindset via social media, via this technology. You see, right here, you may have heard the warnings about artificial intelligence bringing an end to humanity by people like Elon Musk or Stephen Hawking, but have you ever stopped to consider the impacts of an overarching AI would have on your mind or the minds of the future. You see, one revenue that artificial intelligence is already using is psychoanalysis, and the outcome is disturbing. So I would like to go on and more about that, but for the sake of time, I kind of have to go into the idea with that concept right there, them trying to create an artificial sixth sense, permeating all kinds of Wi-Fi waves, ELF waves, Gwyn waves, microwaves, radiation, all these different types of things, dropping aluminum and barium and strontium via the chemtrails, creating shooting plasma bombs into the atmosphere and the ionosphere. It literally creates a layer, a unforeseen film, an unforeseen veil that they have control over. You see, and that's what I'm trying to talk about. While we pull our information and our generational information, generational knowledge, what's in our blood, what's in us, because they say the life is in the blood. While we have that, they're trying to put this up, and the reason why is because we're biological computers. If they can create their own form of if they can create their own interaction form or their own interactive, energetic field, then they can start creating not only entities that would reside in this energetic field, but people who were already able to, or people who would be able to pull essence from this energetic field. And it gets crazy. It definitely gets crazy. That's why I've talked to a few different people over this concept. I thought I was thinking of some pretty strange things beforehand, but what I'm learning, guys, is you keep doing this stuff, you will not be bored. You keep doing this, you will definitely not be bored. Wow. Right there. Divers discover Swedish Atlantis in the Baltic Sea. They're finding giant bones. They're finding all kinds of new, or old, ancient cities. Like I said, ancient archaeology. We're still discovering things about ourselves. We're still trying to figure out all these great things, and that's why this episode is called Revealing Humanity, because we've got to understand how awesome we are, that we're more than just the likes, that we're more than just the nonsense that they try to pipe down our throats. You see, as I said before, we're biological computers, being ghosts in the machine, spirits inhabiting stardust covered in meat. We are much more than we could ever possibly imagine. And when we eat right, get healthy, and maintain physical body harmony, we are literally acting in the way of the universe and how God intended. When we practice dutiful prayer, meditate regularly, and cleanse ourselves of false aggressions, we untether ourselves from the past hatred and literally confess our sins, not to some creepy pedophile, preacher, but to God. And the reason why I say this is because, no man can give you freedom the same way no law can give you freedom. You have to seek those things yourself. Okay? You got to free yourself. We allow ourselves to be in harmony with God. That is how you walk with God. It is both spiritual and physical. We have to honor ourselves and Him by doing so. How does this relate to being, a spiritual computer? Let me put it to you this way. Or a biological computer. What happens when you watch porn? You're cluttered with viruses and Trojans, right? You get some web bots watching you too. So you're plagued with, thoughts of impurity where they can infect other thoughts to do bad things, which allows for demons and other low vibratory entities to spy on you as well. And, they wait for the opportune time to attack. You see, as above, so below, all is one is all. We are the universe experiencing ourselves. When we don't exercise both spiritually and physically, we don't maintain our identities and our status. Okay, we quickly fall behind because of all the little things that we begin to neglect. And it's the same truths. These are truths that you already know. I'm not saying anything new. Okay, we're supposed to let the light shine through us. But how can we do this when darkness is all we know and let into us? You see, if we're meant to be the light, you tell me, how far down do you think you could take a flashlight into the dark abyss of the sea? But I bet you could probably shine a light through a plastic bottle of water, or through a glass cup, or take a flashlight with you whenever you go shallowly swimming. The point I'm trying to make is that whenever you cleanse your body, whenever you have a clean mind, a clean body, and a clean soul, so to speak, things become clearer to you. You find harmony. You hear the truth. You know these truths. You see them. You align yourself with the truth. Okay, we're made to send and receive signals from and to God. We are tapped into this almighty and otherworldly, all-consuming force due to our inherent nature that resides within us. That's our souls. As I keep trying to reiterate, you are we. We are all together. Our souls, our energy. It's not physical. That's why we're not talking science. When people try to tell me, oh, well, you should use more science, I'm pretty sure a lot of what I'm doing is to show you that science isn't doing what science should be doing. And now that we got, technology coming in here saying, hey, I'll be able to run this a lot more efficiently than any of you guys and your opinions. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of things we got to look at. I'm not trying to talk science. I'm not doing that. I'm trying to explain to you guys other things. We are clearly clearly experiencing this world and literally making it up as we go. None of this is real. And we are making this, as we do time, up. Some folks refer to this as the holographic universe, and I can see why. But what I'm trying to explain is our orientation in such a universe and why we are so special. We're beings of energy, and as we've learned and often forget, energy can either be created or destroyed, merely rearranged or manipulated. So does our souls. We have lived before. This is not our only life. We are meant to be infinite. We are meant to be immortal by nature, but in this realm, this limbo we're in, it's to teach us a lesson of some kind. I mean, are you going to go through your whole life thinking that none of this is real? None of this is important. You're not important. None of this matters. If you go through your whole life thinking this way, you won't make something of yourself. What good would you do? Would you want to hang out with you? Probably not. Be honest with yourself. Or, a little bit. Check this out. Canceled TED Talk. Physicist contracted by the CIA shares everything he knows about ESP. And the reason why I'm doing this episode, guys, I'm getting it out there. I believe in us. I believe in humanity. I believe in freedom. I believe that we can do whatever we want to do. I believe that, we shouldn't be doing certain things. I believe that there is a natural law. I believe that, inherently people try to say, oh, there's no such thing as good or evil. It's like, oh, well, that's fine. Let me take a knife to you, and then I'm sure you'll consider my next actions a little bit evil. But that goes against everything that is natural. That is why we were cast out of the Garden of Eden, for sin. You see, when you go against what is natural, I feel like you're I'm not trying to say something like that, but what I'm trying to illustrate to you guys is we have to think bigger in the ways of how we're affecting things, of how we're affecting individuals, of what we can do, the capabilities of one individual, how we're able to be so awesome. I hate Bill Gates. And now we have Elon Musk coming out of nowhere. These are just household names that already have attachments to them. These are what people can represent. What do you want to represent? What can you do? What will you define yourself doing? And whenever we have people that really don't believe in themselves, or, the idea of humanity, the fact that someone else could do that, 5,000 times better than you. I, I know that there are people who could host a way better podcast than myself, and these are a few things. There's a few things that I'm going to be working on myself, as well, with the podcast and with the show, videos and etc. Because of the constant refining and improvement that I want to have for this show, and the level of information in which you guys have. I want you guys to appreciate that and appreciate all that we have to offer here on the show, you see. And I know other people can do that, and that's why I usually that's usually why I refer you guys to them, so you can hear other people talk about these things and get the same kind of information I'm getting, and deduce answers for yourself, because that's all we can do. Like I said before, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just trying to do something in a certain way. As I've said before on the show as well with other people, the information is out there, and by not putting it out there for the next generation to take advantage of, or to have access to, I feel like that doesn't benefit anybody, as I keep referring back to with generational knowledge, legacy information. The fact that we have a wealth of information already available to us, but that we are not appreciating it, just shows, like I said, the kind of concept that we're dealing with. But I'm ranting. Let me get into this article and a few other things, and then I'll tie up this episode. Yeah. Russell Targ is a physicist and author, a pioneer in the development of the laser applications, and the co-founder of the Stanford Research Institute investigation of psychic abilities in the 1970s and the 1980s. SRI, the Stanford Research Institute, is a research and development think tank in Menlo Park, California. Called Remote Viewing, his work in the psychic area has been published in Nature. The Proceedings of the Institute of Electronic and Electrical Engineers, IEEE, and the Proceedings of the American Association of the Advancement of Sciences, AAAS. Targ has a bachelor's degree in physics from Queens College and did his graduate work in physics at Columbia University. He's received two national NASA awards for inventions and contributions to laser and laser communications. So basically, he's really qualified. He knows what he's talking about. He definitely knows what he's talking about. In 1983 and 1984, he accepted invitations to present remote viewing demonstrations and addressed the USSR Academy of Science on this research. He is the author and co-author of 9 books dealing with the scientific investigation of psychic abilities and Buddhist approaches to transformation of consciousness, including Mind Reach, Scientists Look at Psychic Ability. He wrote that in 1977 and refurbished it back in 2005. Miracles of the Mind, Exploring Non-Local Consciousness and Spiritual Healing with Jane Cotter. He wrote that in 1997. And Limitless Mind, A Guide to Remote Viewing and Transformation of Consciousness, 2004. So basically, he knows what he's talking about. And in the actual article, it goes on talking about it, and I remember actually hearing about Russell Targ before I actually did the podcast and all these other things that I was that I'm doing now, and how he was involved in some of the other projects that are going on, some of the things that are being disclosed now. And the idea behind it is that they were literally hiring out psychics, they were hiring out remote viewers, people, astral travelers, people that were doing these extrasensory things already, and then they were contracting them to spy. They were contracting them to go do surveillance. I mean, another household name that I'm sure you guys are very much aware of is Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley. He styled his name to rhyme with holy. This was somebody that was commissioned by the MI5, the British intelligence. So it's not too far off to have and I think Rasputin, I forget, Grigory Rasputin, maybe I think his name is Grigory Rasputin. He was basically a seer or mystic that was used in it was either the Ukrainian or Russian royal family, and basically they requested this mystic to help out with their son, to do occult and spiritualistic practices on their son to help with some health problems that he was having. So the point I'm trying to illustrate before getting back into this is that throughout history, and I mean it's even in the Bible as well. Throughout history, mystics have always been closely associated with authority and with governmental organizations. So whenever we have Russell Tarr talking about ESP and them recruiting remote viewers, astral travelers, psychics, even occultists, people that are practicing some very strange things, some dark magic, and that's whenever you get into the occult roots of NASA with Jack Parsons and Werner von Braun, and them conducting the Babylon working ritual, and I've talked about that as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that there is some very, very supernatural, strange stuff occurring at the highest levels of authority, and these things are going to continue to happen because of the results that they've already seen. You see, I mean, think about it this way: why does the Vatican have the Lucifer telescope? Why did they name it Lucifer? You see, why is the symbol for one of the most commonly used products across the entire world, Apple, the symbol of the forbidden fruit? You see, and so there's all kinds of different things that you have to look at with that, but there are occult, esoteric, symbolic, and spiritual things that we have to look at when we start thinking about what's going on. And the reason why I have to put this in at the end of the show is to show you guys that, hey man, these things are occurring. These things are occurring. So if you don't think that, they could be ritualizing children or practicing these kinds of, rituals, rites, or these things, they're still going to occur. And more information will come out as to what they do in the diversity of these certain projects. And this is why we're seeing what's happened with the damage that MK Ultra has caused, with the idea that they could literally mind control someone. I mean, that's it. It's somewhat of a passé topic these days. Seeing as how I'm telling you that people are being programmed by their phone whenever they do these challenges every other week. But before that, they had to break down the psychology of people. They had to break down the sociology of people. How far could they push an individual before they broke? How far could an individual retreat into themselves before they disassociated? All kinds of different things like that. And, it doesn't matter if you don't believe these types of things. They went on. And before we had scientists, spending millions of taxpayer dollars discovering and trying to break this down, there were people doing it before they even got caught onto it. They had to teach these people who eventually taught other people, who eventually were brought into our age, who are now contracted with people like Russell Targ. You see, so regardless, these types of things are occurring and will continue to occur, whether or not they're disclosed by CIA documents or by the Chinese, the communist Chinese. Because right before the end of the year, an article or a document floating around, and it was called The Chronology of Recent Interest and Exceptional Functions of the Human Body in the People's Republic of China, that started floating around on how back in 1979, people in China were also doing experiments in telepathy, psychokinesis, and all kinds of other things like that, parapsychology, you see, and that qigong, all kinds of other things like that. This is going to keep happening. We have these abilities. If you don't believe in yourself, you shut that door right there. You should. I don't know how you got to this part of the show, but you should stop listening. Because if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in the idea of yourself or the idea of one, how can you even comprehend half of the other things that will continue to transpire in front of you? You see. Like I said, more and more of these things are going to keep happening. But you have got to know yourself. As I said before, the solutions come from within. You guys know some things that I don't know, and I would like to hear about them. I would like to hear about you. Hear about what we can do against this tyrannical system which is trying to conform and digitize our soul. You cannot do that. It's impossible. But that's all I really got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. It was awesome talking about how awesome you were. Why? Because you're awesome. Duh. But before I close out, I'd like to say one more thing, or actually a few more things. Like I said, guys, check out Paradox Radio, because if anything, you guys should be on it. The music that's already on there is you, or some of the great people that we've had on here already. You see, like Libertas, and Smooth to God, all kinds of other awesome things. This is what we're doing. So check out Paradox Radio. Like I said, every Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Be sure also to check out the Battalion's Bazaar, because you guys can request music, you can request art, you can request videos, you can pay for past episodes. You guys can basically help continue to finance more of this operation, because we will continue to do so, and we will diversify the tactics and figure out a better way to get the information out to you guys, because you deserve it as well. And this is the last thing. Make sure you check out Operation Dunamis, because this is another thing that is going to help solidify what we're doing over here. As I said before, getting us on Blog Talk Radio, where we can meet more people, getting us on iTunes, where we can meet other people as well, having it to where you guys can literally get the information delivered straight to you, creating a mailing list. Like, there's so much that comes with doing this. My God, that's why it took so long to get all this together. I didn't think, hopping back in the saddle would be so hard, but apparently we have a lot of work to do, and we will continue to do so. Why? Because we love it, and we also love you. But like I said, that's all I really got for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noisera, Freedom Faction, out.